Hello and welcome to Times Now. I'm Malvika Jain and I have with me Senator Priya Sundareshan. She is a senator in the state of Arizona. Priya, welcome to Times Now. My first
Thank you.
question to you is that Arizona is a swing state. Immigration is a key issue in the presidential elections. But what are the other issues that affect the Indian American community in Arizona?
Well, I think other main issues that the Indian American community cares about are one, reproductive freedom. We have had abortion bans in many states in the United States that have gone into effect, and I think the ability, as someone who has had children in the last 5 years and has seen the impact of some of these state laws that have made getting health care during pregnancy just that much more fraught and that much more difficult. Just being in an experience like that, it becomes very important. And I think Indian Americans also, we tend to go into the medical field. There's a lot of us in the medical field. And so some of those bans and some of those statutes have actually potentially criminalized the practice of medicine and providing the health care that people might need in order to survive when a miscarriage occurs or when a pregnancy goes wrong. So
How
I think
many Indians are there in the state of Arizona?
that's a good question. I think there's a couple 100,000, maybe more. I haven't actually gotten the answer.
And how important are they as voters in the state? And who is likely to win, Kamala Harris or Donald Trump in the state of Arizona? Because both have been very aggressively campaigning in the state.
Every single group of voters in Arizona is critical. South Asian voters, Indian voters being, if we're in the hundreds of thousands, that is a very important difference that we will make by voting in this election. Because we know in 2020 that Joe Biden won Arizona by under 11,000 votes. So every single community that came out to vote, including the South Asian community, is critical. And I do think that Kamala Harris will win. I do. I mean, what we've seen, what I've been doing all day is knocking on doors, talking to voters, and we're just making sure that people understand the grave danger that Donald Trump poses if he comes back into the presidency. We've also done some outreach to South Asian voters as well by doing phone calls and so that's something else that we like to underscore to South Asian voters in particular, that not only do we have the chance to elect one of our own in Kamala Harris to be the president of the United States, but that there's so much difference in the policies that each of the candidates represent.
But overall, immigration is a very big issue in the state of Arizona. What makes you believe that Kamala Harris is going to win in the state, especially if you go by the polling results? It seems that Trump is gaining ground in the state.
That certainly has become an issue. I think some of it is manufactured by the right wing. The idea that there are some kind of open borders or that even immigration is bad for the country. I think all of these are not ideas that are frankly true. Immigration has really been so important to this country from throughout its entire history, and then certainly for Arizona itself. So much of the advancement of Arizona comes from having immigrants from, not only farm workers who cross the border every day from Mexico to pick vegetables and fruits in the farms in Arizona, but also the other kinds of skilled workers that have come and helped build our tech boom, our tech economy. And so, although there's an easy scapegoat that Trump and the Republicans have been trying to push, that immigration is somehow bad or that they're bringing crime, that nothing could be farther from the truth. Immigrants are actually the most law-abiding in this country because they know that their status here is precarious and they contribute so much. So,
But I think
uh,
what Trump has been alluding to, and I think Harris has also talked about, is illegal immigrants. It seems clear that both of them have no problem with the legal immigrants who are staying in this country.
yes, and I think that distinction is important to draw because there is that respect for the laws of the country that both that especially Kamala Harris tries to emphasize when talking about the border. I think the problem is, that Donald Trump talks about, illegal immigration, and then he conflates that with legal immigrants. So there is no real difference between someone who comes illegally to the country versus even legal immigrants, people who have come, from countries obtaining their visas, waiting for those visas. And as he said, he is planning on drastically restricting even legal immigration. And in the Stephen Miller and those of the folks who advise them on immigration issues have signaled that they will dramatically reduce the amount of H-1B visas available. And we saw that during the Trump presidency, that it took a long time for people who were waiting for green cards to obtain them.
So, you are a Democrat. I just want to emphasize that again. And you believe that Indian Americans, particularly, will be voting for Kamala Harris in the state of Arizona, a key swing state tomorrow. Is that the takeaway from this conversation?
Certainly, there are going to be Indian Americans that support either candidate, but I will tell you that there is a huge amount of excitement that has come forward, especially amongst the Indian American community, once Kamala Harris became the nominee for president, because I've just seen it with so many South Asians and Indian Americans in Arizona who suddenly see somebody who looks like them, who comes from a background like them, who's like my mother and father immigrated to this country from the United States. Her mother came from India. So there's so much that people now see as hope and joy that is available. And really the promise, as Kamala Harris says, the promise of America is reflected in her candidacy. And so there's so much excitement that has just really sparked from this.
Wonderful, Priya. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for your time. We will be closely tracking the elections and let's see who wins tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Arizona is a very close state. The margins will be critical, and it is a battleground state for the presidency. It's also, very important because of the close margins up and down the ticket in Arizona. As I mentioned at one point, I'm the chair of the Arizona Democratic Legislative Campaign Committee. We're in charge of flipping the Arizona legislature. And that's just, one of the very critical types of things that Arizona can expect, and the voters are really important for.
Wonderful, Senator. Thank you for your time. It was great talking to you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Malvika.